Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, as always, Stewart Cranes, and this is your inside track to success. Before we get started on today's episode, want to thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. We know that there are literally millions of podcasts out there, so we appreciate you for tuning in, checking in, giving us your undivided attention so we can support you in leveling up your life and helping you create the lives and results of your dreams. You know, we firmly believe here on the show that any dream is valuable and we're here to support you in getting there. And because this show is free, all you need to do is click in and listen in, whether you're catching this on Spotify or YouTube or elsewhere. We just ask that you share this with a friend. If you get any value out of today's show, please share it out with somebody. Also, please leave a comment telling us what we found most valuable so that we can continue to have great episodes, great guests on the show to share their expertise and their perspectives from different walks of life, different careers, different mindsets, different, just things that they're up to that make the world an awesome place. So we're going to dive in today. This is going to be another solo run with yours truly, and wanted to talk to you guys today about something really simple, but has been on my heart recently in a major way. It's the idea of achievement and stacking achievements over and over and over again, but there's still being that bar, that missing something that, just calls to you that you can't quite seem to hit. And having had the opportunity recently to participate in a workshop, specifically for men, a personal development workshop for men, I had the opportunity to really take myself on and look at myself in the mirror and see, maybe what was working and what isn't, and what still gets to be iterated upon for myself so that I can continue to create the results for myself and my family that I'm looking to in my life. I may be someone with a podcast. However, that doesn't exonerate me from being on my own personal growth journey, because there's always there always is a room for improvement. When I was a kid, I would go to basketball camps, and I was very fortunate to get to go to one put on by De La Salle High School in Concord, California. And De La Salle, for those of you listening, was featured as the school in the movie When the Game Stands Tall, which is about high school football. True story about the all-time win streak for a high school football team. They had won 151 straight games, I believe, from the 1992 season all the way to 2004 when they finally lost their first game in that span. What a lot of people don't know is they are legit contenders annually in just about every other sport as well, including basketball, which was mine. And I know I've alluded to that a bit here on the show. My love for basketball, I use a lot of basketball analogies, particularly around Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, so on and so forth. But Coach Frank Alaco, then of De La Salle, he's moved on to other things I've heard, but he was at the time at least, the only high school basketball coach to win state championships at more than one school. So clearly somebody who knows what he's doing when it comes to coaching. And he would always say the greatest room in the world is the room for improvement. So no matter who you are, where you're coming from, there's always something we can get better at. And the greats all know that. Again, just going back to basketball, Kobe Bryant famously would make 1,000 shots a day. And when you go in with that type of mindset, which we all know of as his Mamba mentality, he is committed to making 1,000 shots a day. So how many shots did he actually have to take every single day to make 1,000 of them? And so things like that. But with that in mind, something that really came alive for me that I want to talk about here today is this idea that we have in our society that we always have to be Superman, like Kobe Bryant and his Mamba mentality that is, you know, made of legend now because of his untimely passing in 2020. Our society values the high achieving, the goal crushing, the go, 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 do, I'll sleep when I'm dead types. The win at any costs. Trying to think of as many cliches here as I can, but you guys get the idea. And in a social media world of Instagram, where everybody's only posting their highlight reels of their lives, it's very, very easy to not only play the comparison game, but to make ourselves feel less than because that Superman, being that Superman all the time, is actually an impossible standard for any of us to hit. And I think what came alive for me recently was just knowing that being Clark Kent is okay too. It's actually not sustainable to have to be Superman all the time. Clark Kent has his value. He serves a purpose. He's worthy of my love and attention because he's a part of each and every one of us too. And what I mean by this, everyone, is that we get to be our best when we show up for our commitments, our responsibilities, the people we answer to. I know I feel most committed to showing up for my wife and my stepson and making sure that they are provided for, they have everything they need, they have everything they want. Well, most of what they want anyway. But at some point, it's like, at what cost, right? It's very easy to go on Instagram and see somebody that we hold in super high regard, seeing how perfectly manicured their life looks, and make ourselves feel less than because we're not necessarily as attractive or as physically fit or have as much money, which it's debatable how much money these folks on Instagram actually have anyway. And so not only is this comparison the thief of joy, but it also negates your ability to be a human being, to be vulnerable, to have feelings, to not have to be on top of the world all the time, to need support. Like, it's okay to need help and to ask for it and to receive it. And in this culture that we live in of consistent achievement and excellence and exceptionalism, it's pretty easy for us to forget that our imperfections are actually quite perfect because they make us who we are. Dwayne The Rock Johnson has more Instagram followers than any other American male. He has bad days too. We just don't see it because of his perfectly manicured image that he presents and that his team presents, his publicists present, so that he can continue being Dwayne The Rock Johnson. I would be curious if I ever got to meet him in person, if he feels the weight of being Dwayne The Rock Johnson and what that feels like. Does it feel like something that is unattainable, even though he's created it for himself? And so, for those of you listening to this with goals, this isn't about getting on some type of soapbox to complain about the state of the world, but it is just a check in for you. Are you negating your value? Are you negating your worth? Are you discrediting the impact that you have on the world just because of how you are and who you be and how you show up in the world? I harp on this all the time. We build self confidence by keeping our promises to ourselves, but only if we acknowledge ourselves for what we have accomplished. And y'all, this works because when we complete things we say we're going to do, we build that integrity with ourselves, which builds our credibility with ourselves, which then makes us believe we can take bigger swings at bigger goals. And then over time, it changes how we look at ourselves in the mirror. And maybe that's what being a superhero is actually about. Showing up powerfully for the people, for the ideas, for the dreams that you have. Like no BS, like really going for it. Despite the naysayers, despite the circumstances, despite the days when you're not feeling motivated to do the work. Doesn't have anything to do with any type of comparison game on social media. It's just an outlet for one-upsmanship. I think what's important also to say, though, is all of us are both Superman and Clark Kent. We have people that look up to us, that rely on us, that hold us up on a pedestal, whether we realize it or not. And in other places, we're the Clark Kent. And I believe that achieving this balance between the two identities within ourselves is how we create harmony in our lives. Showing up strong and powerfully in this area while giving myself time to recover, recuperate, receive coaching, receive support, pouring into myself, taking a rest day as needed. Where in your life are you Superman or Superwoman? And where are you the Clark Kent? And how can you learn to love both sides of the coin? May sound like a rhetorical question, but this is something that I am personally sitting with in my life currently. And as I sit on this question more, it's unlocking a lot for me in terms of how I show up in relationships, how I show up in my business, how I show up as a father and as a husband. What am I allowing my 9-year-old stepson to emulate? Am I setting the example of somebody who's secure in their own skin or somebody who's insecure and needs to look for external validation? It's just food for thought. And I'm sharing it here because I imagine it is relevant to somebody listening to this. Where are you Superman and where are you Clark Kent? And how can you make sure that neither one of them are wrong? Again, we are both sides and they both have their day in the limelight. See, y'all, I know this is a very short episode today, but just a couple of questions that were on my heart and wanted to share with you all. Just some thoughts I was having out loud. Because again, I may be a life coach. I may have clients. I may be coaching them towards creating amazing goals. And darn it, we're getting them some great results. And I'm very proud of that. But I get to be doing my own work too. And any good coach worth their salt will tell you that also. So, in thinking out loud, I'm hoping that this also shares, or excuse me, sheds some insight into your lives as well. Where are you the superhero? And where are you the alias? And how can you make both of those sides of the coin okay? So remember, you are worthy, you are valued, you are loved, and you are deserving of every single thing that you want to have in this life. It begins with accepting yourself as being worthy of those things. So I encourage you listening to this to step into a place of self acknowledgement. Keep an self acknowledgement journal. Write down the positive feedback you get from folks, because if you do, you'll start to maybe see how they view you. And maybe in some of your most vulnerable, weakest feeling moments, you'll actually realize how strong you are because of how you show up to others. This is something I've had some clients do, and it's been magical for them to see this for themselves. And I encourage you to do the same. So, again, y'all, this was Stewart Cranes. We're keeping it really short this week, but please share this out with somebody. Share it out with the superheroes in your life. Share it with the people that are superheroes but could benefit from spending time as the Clark Kent or the Bruce Wayne or the Bruce Banner. Insert your alias here. See you next week.